Let's see, what are we going to need? I have a buffered image for tube. Let's make a buffered image for Mario. Now you are actually going to have 5 different images here. In fact, let's do it the right way. I'm going to make an array of buffered images. Okay? Now if you want to, call it Mario 1, Mario 2, Mario 3, Mario 4, and Mario 5, you can do that. An array is a slightly better way to do it because it makes more sense. You can cycle through it easier. So I'm going to make an array here. How do you allocate an array? Well, inside of my view, this is my constructor for my view. Let's allocate that. Mario equals new Mario, and we'll make 5 of them. Should I call it Marios? Plural makes more sense to me for an array, doesn't it? Okay. What the heck is an array? How does it differ from a variable? An array is just a whole bunch of them. By default, an object is initialized to null. By default, an array is also initialized to null. But there's a difference. When you allocate it, okay, here's my stack. I don't even want to talk about my stack right now. Here's my object, and I have inside of here tubes, and I have Marios, right? Well, tubes initially points to null, which is 0. And Marios also points to null. When I say Marios equals new Mario bracket 5 close bracket, what does that do? That allocates an object which has 5 references to Marios in it. These are not 5 Marios. These are 5 Mario references. What's the difference? One's an object, one's just big enough to reference a memory location, right? So when I say Marios equals new Mario 5, it's actually doing this. And what are these 5 values initialized to? Null. So now, so before this line of code, tube pointed to null and Mario's pointed to null. Now, after this line of code, tube still points to null, and Mario's points to an array containing 5 nulls. So instead of having 2 nulls, now I have 6 nulls. Get it? Okay, I still have to run through and set each of those values to something. Now right here I'm setting tube to be non-null. And I'm going to have to do that for each of the 5 Marios. Now just to do that cleanly, I'm not liking this whole try-catch nastiness because I don't want to replicate that 6 times. That's just ugly, isn't it? So just as a general good coding practice, let's do something. Let's modularize a little bit. Let's make a static buffered image, load image, string file name function. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm making a helper method. This is a method that's going to load an image. It's going to take a file name, return an image. And I'm going to do all that try-catch blather that Java forces me to do in it so I don't have to repeat this code a bunch of times. If you have ugly code, do you want 6 copies of it in your program or do you want 1 copy of it in your program? The answer is 1 because if that ugly code ever breaks, you don't want to have to fix it 6 times, right? You want to fix it just 1 time. Duplicated code is considered a great evil in programming because if you have multiple copies of code, then debugging becomes a nightmare. If you write code, only write it 1 time and then you're the kind of programmer you want to be. Okay, so now I need to clean this up a little bit. Let's say buffered image im, and we'll say im is load the image of file name. Now I'm going to return im. See what I've done? this is general purpose code. And it's going to make a file with the file name I specify. It's going to load it into the member variable, and I'm going to finally return it. And now I can take all of this ugly code and I can change it to just say tube equals load image tube.pung. Do you say pung or ping or pung or PNG? PNG, you just avoid the matter altogether? Okay, that's probably smarter. Then let's move this down here, that there. And now that I have made my array, I can say Mario's 0 equals load image Mario1.png. It takes so many syllables to say. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's confusing, isn't it? Let's name them 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, just so I can be consistent there. Okay, now I better go to your server, and my server, I mean, and get those files. This is assignment 3. Save image as temp. See, I'm in the map editor folder. Oh no, it's called Mario 1. And there's Mario 2. Save image as Mario 3. Save image as Mario 4. Save image as Mario 5. Okay. I have a bunch of Mario files in here. It's going to be faster for me to change my code than to rename all those files, so I'm going to put it back, even though it's ugly. But isn't having a one-line load image command a lot cleaner than having 6 copies of this ugliness? Okay, try to keep your code modularized into little chunks and clean as much as you possibly can. I haven't built in a long time. A little nervous. Let's build and clean up our errors. Semicolon expected on line 21. You seen the Dilbert comic where the boss says to Dilbert that I've been looking at your code and used the colon way too much, bad grammar, and he replies, yes sir, they remind me of you. And all right, not funny, is it? U.Java line 20. What's wrong with that? Incompatible types. Mario cannot be converted to a buffered image. That's true. He's not a bunch of Marios, he's a bunch of buffered images. Somebody saw that bug and just let me go with it, didn't you? I know you did. Okay, well. Another one? Variable might not be initialized, line 40. It's good for me to make lots of mistakes in front of you because then you get to see how to deal with those. It's true, this variable might not be initialized. Why might it not be initialized? Because I'm in this try block, and if it threw an exception right here, which it won't because there's no code right there, but if somehow it threw an exception before executing this line, or if it threw an exception right here, im would never be initialized. Do you see that? And yet the catch would cause it to recover, so it's possible to get to this line without initializing im. So how am I going to deal with that? Well, I know it's never going to happen, or if it does, it's going to terminate anyway. It doesn't understand that this code is going to kill the program, so it's really not possible. So I'm just going to initialize it to null, which is what it's initialized to anyway. Joke's on the compiler. But that'll make it shut up, and now I build, and it's going to run. Okay, Java game. Whoops. Now I'm running, and behold, all my Marios are loaded into memory, and you can't even see them. Great. Now it'd be nice if we actually painted our Mario, wouldn't it? Okay, I'm going to paint him last. Why? Because I feel like Mario should be on top, and whatever you paint last is going to be on top, isn't it? If I had a Mario and a tube get on top of each other, which one would I want to see? Well, it depends. Do you think Mario goes behind the tube or in front of the tube? I don't know, up to you. I'm going to do it last because I want to. I'm going to draw him at, let's see, I'll use Mario 0 for now. I'll draw him at model.mario.x and model.mario.y, and now I finally see something. Yay, it's looking so much happier already. I mean, it was fun before, but now it's awesome, isn't it? I mean, just there's a guy there doing something. Clearly he's jumping. Great, we've made it that far. Although it did look a little bit suspended. Wouldn't it be cooler if he was subject to gravity? Okay, how do you do gravity? Has anybody taken enough physics to understand how gravity actually works? So you don't fall like this, do you? Or even like this. You don't fall at a steady rate. You start off slow and you fall faster and faster and faster until you fall really fast, right? But if you know much about physics, your acceleration is constant, your velocity is not constant. So in other words, the amount that your velocity changes is by a constant amount. What I am trying to say here is, let's suppose there's an update method in Mario. Because I'm going to want to update my Mario, right? Where am I going to call that from? How about my model update? Now, why don't I just put the code to update Mario inside of this function? I can, and you can make that work. It's just that that's bad organization, right? Why should the code for Mario be inside of the model? It should be inside of Mario. Don't you agree? Please try to keep your code where it belongs. Keep your member variables where in the classes they make sense in. Keep your code in the classes they make sense in. So my model is going to update by just saying, okay, Mario, update thyself, tube, update thyself, and then everybody's updated. Does that make sense? Okay. So Mario's going to update itself. And let's have a double vert velocity, where vert velocity represents the vertical velocity at which Mario is falling. What will this be initialized to? 0? Unless I say otherwise. How about let's initialize it to -12? Why do I put a 0.0 there? Because it's a double. And that kind of reminds me that I don't get clipping that I don't want. Why am I using a double instead of an integer? Because I want to use velocities that may be less than 1 but greater than 0. And I don't want them to snap to 0 or I won't see anything happen. So doubles are good for anything that might take non-integer values. If I do this, I'm going to say vert velocity plus equals how strong should my gravity be? I do 9.8 meters per second squared if I were doing true physics. I don't know. If you actually want to measure the height of your screen and calculate the height of the pixels, determine what that is in meters, and convert that to meters per second squared, you can actually, you also have to figure out what your frames per second is, which we can do based on how long you're delaying between frames. You could actually make Mario so he falls at true gravity rate. And then you could run your Mario program and drop a marble, and they would fall at the exact same rate. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? If this were a physics class, I would make you do that. But since it's not, let's just pick some number. How about 0.9? Sounds good. Because I don't know what it should be. And then we'll say y plus equals vert velocity. In other words, Mario is going to move down by the amount of his vertical velocity, and the vertical velocity is increasing at a constant rate, which is how physics works. Therefore, Mario should just fall like a rock. Okay, shall we see if we did it? Build, run. Every time I run the program, it starts on the wrong screen, so I got to grab it and move it over. Let's try it. There he is. Okay, that wasn't very fast, but that's okay for now. Then he falls off the bottom and then keeps plummeting forever. By now, he's miles beneath the ground because there's no ground. How should we fix that? How about if y is more than 600, then vert velocity equals negative, what, 18? What's that going to do? I just made rubbery ground. He'll be bouncy now. Okay, so here's my Mario. Boing, boing, boing. Now it's feeling like a video game, isn't it? Kinda. We need way stronger gravity than that. Okay. Instead of 0.9, let's try 2.9. Because that was wimpy gravity. There you go. And Mario jumps around. Now you notice if I stop moving my mouse, it gets kind of glitchy. That's Java trying to optimize. But when I wiggle my mouse, it draws the frame more rapidly. Basically, they're trying to save my CPU. In fact, the ground's too low there. Let's change that to 400. Let's change that to negative 38. That's not even strong enough. Let's do 6.9. There we go. That's starting to feel better. And we'll give him a tube to jump around. We have a game. Yay! Okay. And it's starting to feel kind of animated, right? What's an animation? It's really just a bunch of pictures being flashed in front of your eyes. Mario does not actually move. He's teleporting. But as long as you don't teleport very far, it looks kind of animated.